a waiting list. And since we had extra money, was there any more diagnostic testing that went on, or was it all shut down because of COVID?
Oh, none of it was shut down because of COVID. There was 1 month that they didn't provide services. But as of the end of September, and it's in the packet, so I'd have to quickly, but they served, so far they have served a total of 19.
Okay,
Specific to 377 funding.
so they went over their budgets, but we were able to support that.
So there would have to be, the contract was only for 13,972. So if you're suggesting that however many they go over the 13, that the 377 board support that, there would have to be steps in doing that.
Okay, but they did not ask for any extra funding.
They didn't ask for any extra funding.
Okay, they had served 19 people through the third quarter. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So I guess if you are interested in seeing about supporting the 6 extra up to third quarter, or seeing how many are funded throughout the end of the year, I would look into what steps would need to be taken to fund that.
How much do we have left over from this year that we haven't spent because services in all of our, well, both Easter Seals and March 1st services weren't used? Do we have any extra money?
We won't know until January 31st how much extra money was allocated for this year that wasn't used, because it looks like there's going to be money that's not spent, but we won't know for sure until the end of the year. Except for partnerships and health, there were 2 months that they weren't charged, and I think that's like $1,600 a month. So there's probably at least 3,000 from that we can account for that would be extra. But as far as like the other programs like March 1st, so Easter Seals used all their money. But March 1st, as far as how much money they're not going to use, we won't know until the beginning of 2021 at the end of the grant cycle.
Okay. I don't know what the process is, but the $3,000 from the wellness program could be sent to Easter Seals, I would assume, if through proper channels. But we can't spend this year's money, I don't think, after the first of the year, except for special grants, which this could be. But it was just a point of question on my part.
Okay, so I can look at the process of giving Easter Seals the money from the 2 months from partnerships and health.
Is there any interest by other board members in this idea?
Yes, I think if we have extra money and they have a need, that we should give it to them if possible.
I agree.
I support that.
Okay, I will look into it, and I'm assuming that it would have to come back as an action item. So I'll look into what that process would be and send you guys an email.
If that takes care of that, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Thank you, Phyllis.
I'll move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jen.
Mhm.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion is approved. We move on then to the calendar year quarterly report.
You guys can let me know if there's any specific questions on the quarterly reports. So that's for second and third quarter.
I did note under partnerships in health, is it?
Mhm.
Oh, it says target population at the top of the page. And it says children birth to 14 years of age. And early intervention services. And we have talked about changing that at a previous meeting to include more children. And this is diagnostic, correct?
What program was that again?
Well, it's unless I've switched the pages, it's early intervention services.
That would be SPICE.
And that is just diagnostic, correct?
Or if you're talking about the SPICE or pediatric therapy, no, that is not for diagnostic. That doesn't have any diagnostic services for the pediatric therapy. And it's more than early intervention services, but that's actual therapy. So that would be occupational, whatever therapy that child would need. So whether it's occupational, developmental, physical, feeding therapy, that one is for actual therapy. The only program that is specific to diagnostic is Easter Seals.
Okay. And that's services that are not provided through the school systems, correct?
Yes. So the things to remember with the school system is if, for example, if little Jimmy needs occupational therapy, and he was getting occupational therapy at the school, that would only be specific to his needs through what he would need at school. That is not specific to anything that he would need at home or outside of education. So for occupational therapy, they may be working in the school, they may be working on like handwriting or tying your shoes or things like that. Whereas if he were to get occupational therapy through like pediatric therapy, it would not be the occupational therapy he would be receiving at schools. So there's just this huge spectrum of things you can receive, just even in occupational therapy, where it may be sensory integration or how does he sit at the family or whatever. So it can be a little deceiving if you just look at like, oh, he's getting occupational therapy from school. It's not, and then he's getting occupational therapy also from pediatric therapy. It's not going to be the same services, and he's not going to get those same services at the school.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments about the reports? That was just for information, correct?
Yes.
Okay, move into items for discussion. It's another opportunity to talk about the programs that we talked about at our last meeting, which are on the table for funding.
Are we going to take these one at a time, Vern, and discuss each one, or how are we gonna do this?
I think that might be maybe the best thing is just go down the list, and if there are no questions about them, we can move on. So
Yeah.
we can start first at pediatric therapy. Or Mark first.
Okay, this is the ABA program, right?
Yes, Wes.
Okay, well, I'll just give my thoughts then. I was a little hesitant when I saw it was $184,000 for 2 children
Mhm.
for 35 hours a week, right? That's what I understood from their presentation. And thought that was a bit extreme and a little hard to understand, but I have talked and done some research and found out that it's not just working with the children, it's working with whole families. I suppose probably the biggest part of this therapy would be training parents how to control their children and how to work with the children.
Mhm.
And the other thing I found out is that when these kiddos get the early intervention with this extreme targeted therapy, it's probably going to save a lot of money indirectly for the school system. One of my daughters worked as a